everyone, welcome back to the DT Model Art channel. This is part 2 of the James Hunt McLaren M23, and we're finally getting going on this thing. I know it's been about a week since you guys have seen, guys and gals have seen a video from me, so I wanted to get one done today. It's about Sunday afternoon, and the weather down here in Florida is getting a little cooler. It's been real nice and pleasant out in the garage. It's not the hot pit that it usually is. Even though the AC works, it doesn't work too good in the summer. But anyhow, I've done some pre-work on the body pieces, and I want to go over that with you, what those are, before we put the body and the rear engine shroud, cockpit shroud, and rear wing in some preliminary Gravity Colors primer. And it's gray. Yes, I'm not using white. Some of you may say, why don't you just use white primer? I like to use gray. Things show up better with gray. You could sand it, and then I'm just gonna put a white base coat on the car. I'm gonna use some Shopline Hummer white base coat that I got from Chris Batson. But this stuff here came from Matte Meyer at Gravity USA. So what I've done so far is I have glued the upper and lower halves together, like the instructions say. Notice I'm missing the fire extinguisher tank in there. I'm going to turn that on my lathe and then just paint it and plop it right in there. That's my my plan for that. So I've glued the upper and lower halves together, sanded everything clean, and as you can see here, I have also installed from the Tamiya Detail Up Parts Series the front wings. I've cut off these little thick guys here, the molded in ones with terrible seams on the ends, off. How did I do that? A lot of you may say, well, did you use a razor saw or something like that to cut those off? And the answer is no. What I actually used, I can't seem to find it, there it is the back side of an X-Acto knife. You just, when the kit piece is on there, you just sit there and score it back and forth on the back side of the X-Acto knife, and it cuts right through. And then you true it up, the end of it, with a sanding stick. And then you literally glue the two halves together. Each of these plates on the end in the Tamiya photo etch set are two plates. You glue them together, and then they glue onto the ends here. And then what I like to do, that's why I use these handy applicators here. These are, you can get these at Hobby Lobby. That's where I pick them up. They're made by SIG, I believe. Just so you guys know. Yeah, SIG Pro Hardware, these guys here. They help you control your super glues, and I ran a nice bead along the edges of these, both sides, and I just let it dry. It seals them in, gets rid of any gaps that are there, and makes them look really pretty once you put them in primer and paint. And that's what I did there for those front pieces. I've also sanded along the seams and gotten rid of the edges, cleaned these up in here. There was some gaps in here. I filled those with the same glue here. Kicked them with some of the Bob Smith Industries Instaset, and then proceeded to sand them. Now my sanding method is 400, 600, and then 800 on the base plastic to get the nice smooth finish here and get rid of all the gaps. On the bottom, we had a couple sink marks here. Even though this isn't going to show, I went ahead and got rid of those sink marks and glued. Why they did this, I don't know. But maybe because on the real car the tank can be pulled in down from the bottom. I really don't know why they made this extra piece here. If any of you know, please comment in the comments below. But I'm going to go ahead and sand this area, or I've already sanded it nice and smooth, with 4, 6, and 800 grit. It's ready for primer. The top, I've sanded it but lightly because the kit comes, you probably can't see it unless I get it in the kit comes with some guidelines here for masking right there, because someone, you were asking, show me how you're going to do the Marlboro red and mask it and get that real nice symmetrical V. Well, what I'm going to do, everyone, is I'm going to try to prime this with as light a primer as possible, and then try not to sand it. Now you can get away with that with this Gravity stuff. You can lay this on, it goes on real smooth. You really don't have to sand it if you don't want to. Plus we're dealing with solid colors. We're not dealing with metallics, so you don't have to keep them as smooth as possible because it's not going to show up once you get the clear on there. So I'm trying to keep those guides in there, so I'll be able to mask those off and use them as a guide across the top here. What else have I done? Now this piece here, okay, was a separate piece that glued onto the top. It wasn't molded in, unfortunately. So what I've done is I've run super glue around the edges and the seams, kicked them with the Instaset, Bob Smith Industries Instaset, and then proceeded to feather them in and sand them with 4, 6, and 800 grit and get them as smooth as possible. The one coat of Gravity Colors primer, or light coat, that I'm going to put on the car in the next step here is going to reveal any kind of things I still need to work on here on those gaps and such, but it's really hard to see on white plastic what I need to do any more of until I get it primed. The rear wing is done as well. I've glued that with the Tamiya extra thin cement, and as it was setting up, I squeezed it really tight, which created a bead along the edge, and then I sanded that all smooth right here. So that seam is taken care of there. On the bottom, okay, there's a seam that goes across here as well. I have filled that in with some putty. Now, what kind of putty do you use, Dave, by the way? Like the putty I have here and there? Well, my good friend Chris Batson sent me, I asked him if he had anything like this in his shop. He does. This is by a company called USC. It's called Icing. Exceptionally easy to sand, easy to feather, fantastic stuff. It is a 2-part putty, so you need to mix a little bit of this in with the putty and work fairly quickly with it, but that's what I use on a lot of my major parts to get them to look uniform, and it doesn't shrink. I know a lot of you use Tamiya. I use Tamiya putty as well, but it is a lacquer-based putty, and lacquer-based putties, if anybody knows about those, they do shrink, they do crack, and they can shrink back after you've gotten beautiful paint done on your car, and they bite you later. Your paint job looks like crap. That stuff there, anything with a 2-part hardener or a hardener additive is going to not shrink like the one-stage stuff does. So that's what I did there, and I feathered it in and got rid of that seam there. You won't see it on the bottom of the wing when it's on the car, but I wanted it gone. So I've done that, and same method with these. These are the winglets. Now the nice thing is they're plastic in the kit. They have to be glued on. So I just simply didn't glue those plastic ones on, and I used the photo etch ones off the photo etch sheet from Tamiya, which worked out really nice. And again, I ran a thin bead of the super glue along the edges of these wings to clean them up, fill in the gaps, so they'll look pretty once they're in paint. So the next step we have is to get a coat of Tamiya light gray primer on the car, check my gaps, any flaws I have, address those, and while it's still in that one stage of primer, we're going to mess with these. Hold on, I got to find them. What did I do with them? Well, that's nice. Here they are. The Archer Rivets. I'm going to go look at some really, really close photos of the car that I can find, and I'm going to add rivets directly over the primer. I don't want to put them on the plastic. I'm afraid that if I put them on the plastic with nothing to bite into, they say that the decal film that these come on, a carrier film, was really strong stuff. We're going to put that to the test because there are some rivet areas that are going to be masked over to shoot the Marlboro Red, and when I pull the tape off, let's all hold our breath, right, including myself. So we're going to go that route next. When I get that one stage of primer on it, we're going to go in the photo booth now and do that. Put the one stage of primer on it, check it out, and then I'm going to begin showing you how I'm going to apply the rivets to this car, and then that'll be the end of this segment for step 2. I'll finish up the rivets, and then we'll move on to the other steps that I'm going to do on the car. So let's come join me in the spray booth, and we're going to do that next, and then we'll come back to the bench. See you in a bit. Okay, so we're back at the bench now. And basically, the primer worked well. There's not too many spots that I need to do any kind of sanding on. Not that the base coat and clear won't take care of, but there's your overall primed body here, all the way around with Gravity Colors. It's the, just so you guys know, it's the GC320, this stuff here. Good stuff, goes on really, really fast, builds up quickly, but gives you a real durable primer and a smooth primer finish. That's the key too. Very smooth, almost like a sealer if you ask me. But it does have some hiding qualities too if you build it up in certain areas, but it did not get rid of my masking lines that I'm going to need there. Hopefully they'll stay in place once I get base coat and stuff on there. Anyhow, now that the primer's done, we're going to use these things called Resin Rivets from Archer. I will put the link in the description below for the video, but it's Archer Fine Transfers, and really what these are is a resin rivet put on a decal backing, and I've heard that it's pretty strong. The decal backing glue is really strong. So what I did is I looked at some reference photos, and I just took the instructions, the decal placement instructions on the kit, and I just kind of put rivet detail in areas where I see it needs to be based on the one-to-one car. I'm not going to do it perfectly exact, but adding this rivet detail is going to be huge, I think. At least I think so. So what I'm going to do to apply these, you're going to apply them like decals. So I need to use the usual, you know, decal magic. I need to use my Mark Fit Strong here and that kind of stuff. And what I'm going to do is measure the areas where I want these rivets to be. I'm mainly going to stick to the body, but I'm also going to be doing some on the wing as well. Now in this video I'm not going to sit here and burn a bunch of time showing you all of these. I am going to speed up the video, but you know, we're going to start off with just adding these on. We're going to do one strand. I'm going to explain how it's done. You can use a hair dryer with it to really burnish them down, and then you'll be able to watch me. I'll speed up the video a little bit and do some more, and then we'll be at the end of the video for this segment. So basically what I'm going to do, this ruler of course doesn't really have much on it. I need to get a new one, but I'm just going to give myself an idea of where I want these. Now there's a line that runs right across here, and I want to do that angle, and then there's one below it as well. So we're going to stick with those right now. And I'm planning on using, there's many sizes on here, everyone, okay? A lot of them spread out in different areas. I like this band right here for the real tiny, real close, tight-knit rivets that I see on the McLaren M23. So I'm going to measure, roughly, what I need to do here, which I'll use this here. And I'm just going to go across here, and I'm going to start there, and it looks like it needs to go to about there. So it's about, yeah, 2.5 millimeters, something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that with a Sharpie I have here. Get my Sharpie out real quick. My little bag of tricks here. So 2.5, roughly right there. Yeah, I know I need a new ruler. I mean, everybody's going to tell me that. But right to about, now let's say there to there. There we go. And now I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to cut out a little strand of these things. Now, cut them close because the decal backing is all one piece, and these things are literally just printed right on top of this. So you need to just make sure that you cut as close as possible. If you want to use a knife, you can. I'm just using my scissors here to cut a real tiny strand of these bad boys right along the edge here. And if you get a little bit more decal backing, it's okay, because basically it's Very thin and strong stuff from what I'm told. And you dip it right in the decal. You dip it right in water over here. I got water on the side over here, just so you guys know. You lay it out, and you let it do its thing, just like any other decal. And I'm going to get out a pair of tweezers here, and we're going to apply this strand. And once you see how this is done, we'll do some more with a little bit of music playing and me just going to town on this. Might have cut this a little long. Let's see here. Yeah, that's a little long. We're gonna chop this down a little bit with the razor blade. We don't need so many rivets. We'll save this set for something else. I can always start the other strand with that little set. I don't like to waste these things because these little sheets are about 17 bucks a pop. They're not cheap, so I would not waste any more than you have to. So now we're just going to lay this like this on the side and put these on. Just like that. Oh, perfect. That's a perfect set right there. Get my X-Acto knife out here to push it around with. Lay it down. These really move nicely while they're wet. And you can kind of move them around the way you need to. That. Take a cloth, or even better, a Q-tip, and just blot it down right there in place. That. Then I'm going to drag a little bit of this Tamiya strong decal set right along the edge of that bad boy right there. Apply a little heat with a hair dryer. And that's all there is to it. Now, what I'm told is that these things are strong. We're going to put them to the test and pray very, very well, especially in the areas where I've got to tape off. But I think once you put them over paint, now my plan is to put these over another coat of primer. I'm going to concentrate on covering the rivets so that when I put my white base coat down, I'm not worried about the rivets bleeding through the white or anything. I'm going to shoot the primer just mainly on those areas. Just to cover them up and get them uniform with the gray before I shoot the white base coat. But that's one little set right there. So let's throw some music on, speed this puppy up, and do some more. Okay, what an enjoyable time that was. It really wasn't that bad to do. These things here are phenomenal. I can't wait to see what they look like under paint. Here's a good shot of how they came out. See those little black dots? Those are raised surfaces. I did them on the front bulkhead that goes across, around here where the suspension, you know, probably bolts onto the frame, in that area. I didn't go nuts. Now what I'm going to do when I paint the car, clear it, you know, I have all the colors on it, I clear it, I'm going to mask off the inside, and I'm going to add a layer of them in here before I shoot the silver inside here. But I'll do that afterwards. And I just hope, I can't wait to see how they look. Now, I may be brave, everyone, and in the next video, I may just shoot the white base coat over top of this primer and those rivets. I really don't want to paint over those rivets with primer and spot it on, because then we're going to have rough surfaces and such. I don't want that. So I think I'm going to take a shot at it, because, you know, the automotive base coat whites that I use, the Hummer Whites shop line, is very high hiding stuff. So I think I'm going to have success with that. So we'll find out in the next video. But that's it for this one. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We're getting going on this thing. It's going to be a slow process, because this one is a lot more detailed than the Ferrari SF70H I did, because this actually has an engine. But I always like to start with the bodywork first to make sure everything looks really, really nice and clean. It's just my preference. You know, oh, you should test fit this. It's a Tamiya kit. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with, you know, tight tolerances on an old F1 car when everything's so open on them. The body fits great. And with these photo etch pieces on the end, wow, they just add so much realism. They're nice and realistic and not thick. Love it. So anyways, please, if you haven't done it so already, hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and tap the like button. And please hit the bell so that you get notification when I do a next video, which will be in about a little less than a week, hopefully. So we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching.